Hello, good afternoon. My name is Tracy Hartford. I am with 12 Points. I'm a wealth advisor. And the first slide here I have on our screen is just our important disclosures. I just want to share that you can find these disclosures on our website, which are really important. At the same time, if you do go to our website, the other piece that's important there is that along with today's webinar where you register today, you can also see a list of all the other webinars we have, including our Center for Women. We have a variety of webinars planned for you this season, but also our general webinars as well, which are great for just financial education and knowledge in general. And then again, the disclosures, if you need those, please take a look at those on our website. An introduction for myself. My name is Tracy Hartford. I'm a wealth advisor here at 12 Points. I get the privilege to work with clients every day on helping them figure out where they are in their life and where they want to go. So really building up their confidence and helping them see what is possible. It's the favorite part of my job. So thank you for joining me here today. I will be sharing slides. Our company will share slides and a recording of this video. So if you registered and signed up, you will get that automatically. So please feel free to share questions you have in the chat. If I don't get to your questions today, please know that I will respond to you directly after this webinar, or you can certainly reach out to me. My email is there on the screen for you. So let's get underway about your life, your wealth, and a decade by decade financial roadmap for women. To kick off, these are the agenda items I hope to hit on today. These are conversations that I hope you'll be inspired by the end of today's webinar to take one action that's going to be instrumental for your financial freedom plan. So I'm happy to help any way I can, but here let's dive into why a roadmap matters. Our lives, women's financial journeys are often not linear. We have career pauses, we have caregiving needs, we have earning gaps, we have maternity leaves. There's a variety of things that make our path not so linear. And a roadmap, really, which is the result of a financial plan, helps us to plan proactively, not reactively. And that's the power of having a roadmap that helps you figure out where you're going. How many people take a road trip and decide to go without a map? Very often we do not do that because obviously we'll end up lost and confused about where we're going and taking a much longer path. Financial roadmaps help us understand what are the obstacles we may run across and what are ways that we can deal with that. So at the end of the day, we can get to our final destination. To start, I want to share some guiding principles about just general, regardless of what decade you're in, there's some general guiding principles that are helpful for all of us. First, know your numbers. Your net worth numbers. What do you spend on a monthly or yearly basis? You need to understand that because it's really difficult to answer the question of whether or not your money will last a certain amount of time in retirement without knowing how much you spend on a regular basis. So I encourage all of my clients to really understand what that number is. You don't have to know how many Starbucks you get in a week, but I need you to know high level, what are your fixed cost numbers, things that you can't do without, and what are some of the fun things that you kind of add to your life when things are good. The other thing is I want women to protect their income and independence. It's great to have a joint account, but it's also super important to have your own individual accounts. This is for your future security and optionality, and it just gives you more flexibility. Insurance is also really key to help protect yourself. Make sure you understand what you have for disability. That's probably our biggest risk in our life is losing our income and life, to make sure that you can still be able to support those you leave behind should something unexpectedly happen to you. Other things, you want to make sure you're adjusting your financial plan as your life evolves. You have new jobs, you have marriage, you have kids, you have a new home. Your financial plan should never sit on the shelf and collect dust. It should be evolving with your life as it continues to grow and expand. And most importantly, to align your money with your values. Why do you spend your money? What does money mean to you? Understand what that is. That will help drive why you spend money. When it's aligned with your values, you'll feel much better about it versus regretting buying that thing on Temu or Shein. So really start to think about your values and how that guides the way you spend your money. Now let's dive into our 20s. So this is what I find as being the year to really build that focus, really understand where you are and where you want to be. I love my clients at this age to build awareness and great habits about their life. Know what your monthly income is. Know what your monthly expenses are. And then if you have debt, have a debt payoff plan in place. Don't just assume it will happen. Be aggressive about paying off that debt and making sure that you're putting that as a top priority. Emergency savings is key for everybody. You always want to have a backstop should something ever happen, you lose a job or you're out of work for a few weeks and can't collect a paycheck. Really understand what that emergency savings should be. I encourage people to have 3 to 6 months worth of expenses. If you're the sole provider for your family, you should have a year's worth of expenses set aside in case something should ever happen. In your 20s, it's also probably the first opportunity that you'll get to participate in retirement savings. And so you'll have that chance to do your first contributions to retirement. I encourage people to at least do their company match. Most company matches are around 3% these days, is what we see most often. Make sure you're at least matching that, because that allows you to put a small percentage away for your future self, which they will thank you. I did this in my 20s. I'm very thankful someone guided me in that way, because it's very little money to be able to put aside, and you have a lot of time to grow and compound, which is really key if you start in your 20s. Establishing credit, paying off your bills on time, really living within your means is key to be able to do some of the future goals you hope to have. Maybe it's buy a new home. Establishing a good credit line is also extremely critical, and that involves paying off your debt. Life insurance planning, I say this because this is probably the cheapest time that you can buy insurance if you're a healthy young professional. So this is a great opportunity to take a look at that. What might you need down the road? So there's not a one size fits all in this situation. Talk with a professional, get some thoughts on what that might be to help protect yourself, and more so to protect people that might rely on your income down the road. Another thing that's important is everyone needs estate planning documents. I think in your 20s, having some basic estate planning documents in place is critical, especially if you're a student that's off to college. Having your power of attorney, having a healthcare proxy, because once you become an adult, you pass the age, you turn the age of 18, your parents can no longer speak on your behalf or step into your shoes. So being able to have documents that identify who that trusted person is that can do that. If you were to get in a car accident and maybe be unable to pay your rent or pay your bills, you want someone to be able to step in your shoes to do that. And same idea with healthcare proxy, be able to have someone to speak on your behalf if you couldn't speak about your medical circumstances and what you wanted to happen. Next, we're going to dive into your 30s. I think of this as the growth and transition phase. This is the decade of structure, optionality, and protection. The choices here are quietly shaping everything else that follows. So really want our clients to clarify their values and their vision. So your financial decisions that you make are anchored in intention rather than reaction. Be more proactive. Really be intentional about your savings. Have a clear sense of where your money is going and make sure they're aligned with your goals. Don't just spend or save just to do that. Have a reason why you're doing that. Emergency fund, again, if you haven't established that, plan for the unexpected, because it will happen. Our lives will have twists and turns, and you want to be prepared for them, not backed into a corner to react to them. This is also an opportunity to continue maximizing your retirement savings. If you haven't started contributing, this is the time to do it now. You don't want to wait much longer. Again, the match, but I encourage people, every year you get a raise, increase that incrementally by 1%. Don't wait for something or someone to guide you to that. Just do that, because each year you contribute, it's going to be great for yourself. In 2026 alone, everyone under the age of 50 can contribute a maximum amount of $24,500. So when I asked if someone's maxed out in their retirement contributions, are you maxed out at $24,500? If you are not there, then start incrementally increasing that every year that you get a raise. And for those that are 50 to 59 or 64 plus, a little weird rule that's come into play, you can save up to $32,500 each year in these retirement plans, in the 401k plans or 403bs, the retirement employer plans. And then there's a special bonus for those that are 60, 61, 62, and 63. I don't know why they selected those specific age and why others beyond that don't need to save more, but you have up to $35,750 to save in 2026. So these are all really important to maximize those retirement savings. Again, in estate planning, make sure you're looking at those, because your life is going to change, and those that you list in your documents may not be people that you want in your documents. And if you have children at this age, this is also a great time to think about estate planning docs about guardianship for your kids. If something should happen to you, who do you want to take care of your children or have that ability to take over? Again, insurance planning, you want life insurance to cover any mortgage, future mortgage needs that you have, education needs if you have children, and 5 years of lost income if you're living with a spouse. That's what insurance is set up to to help kind of protect your family for, make sure you have enough coverage for that. We encourage people to have that aligned with their net worth. And same thing, making sure you have other insurance coverages in place. If you have a home, do you have an umbrella policy? So different things that are important. Every situation is different, and that's the reason why we love when people work with professionals, because they can help identify things that are important for you specifically. And finally, in your 40s, really invest for, in your 30s, really invest for growth. Make sure that your risk is aligned with your time horizon. You want to make sure that things are for retirement are aggressively invested if that makes sense for you, because you have a lot of running room. But if you're saving for a house in the short term, being aggressive in that may not be the wise choice. So really think about what your time horizon is for these goals and how are you investing those funds. My favorite decade is the 40s because that's when I tend to run into a lot of my clients. It's that financial checkpoint decade. It's the decade where life gets fuller, faster, and layered. You're often carrying a lot of load, a lot of responsibilities, caregiving, kids, there's changes in your jobs. You have a lot going on in this decade. If you haven't done so at this point in your life, I really encourage people to establish that baseline financial plan. Understand where you are at this point in your life, identify goals, see what's possible for you, because this is the perfect time to make some shifts and adjustments that will be super impactful as you approach that retirement goal that you have in mind. You also have potentially some mid-career earning power. You've gotten through the hurdles of raising a family or maybe buying a house already. You've got some things behind you, and now you have the opportunity to really make some impact in your life. So there's an opportunity to accelerate your retirement savings. If you haven't been able to do that in your 20s and 30s, now's the time to buckle down and do that now. You may also be supporting aging parents. We call this the sandwich generation. We're raising kids and we have parents that are aging and that we're worried about, or we may have to actually care for. So really understand what your role is in that process. Be thoughtful about it without sacrificing your own long-term security. That's really important. And career, think about career optionality. What would give you more freedom later on in your life? Not just more income now. What's your purpose? What do you hope to be doing as you approach retirement? Start to think about that and understand what your options are. I made my own career shift in my 40s because it was time for me to do something different, but that didn't come just snapping my fingers and doing it. There was a lot of planning that went into that, looking at my finances and how we were going to handle things as a household to be able to make that shift. This is the perfect time to really think about those things and what could be possible for you. And as other slides said, insurance planning, estate planning, always take a look at those. Make sure they're updated. Make sure they're covering the needs that you have right now. Your life is going to change. Make sure those documents align with that. And again, with your investments, make sure they're diversified. The way you invested in your 20s is certainly not the way you should be invested in your 40s. So be thoughtful about what those goals are and how much risk you need to put on the table. The next grouping is your 50s, and it's really about preparing for the next chapter. This decade is about strengthening, simplifying, preparing for multiple possible futures. It's really about strategy and protection. Updating your financial plan, clarifying your vision is really key at this point. Make sure that everything in your plan aligns with who you are today. Start to do some retirement projections. Understand what it's going to take to jump off the rotary at 50, 55, 60. You really want to understand where you are and what things you need to do now to help support that vision. Understand what's possible for you and what needs to adjust if you've done some long-term care planning already. It's really, if you haven't done this already, you want to be thinking about this in your 50s because you're still healthy, you're still insurable. This is a great time to understand, what do you see yourself long-term care planning? Do you plan to have care at home? Do you hope to be in a retirement community? Start to think about what that looks like in your 80s and 90s, because now's the time to start to plan for that. We talk about Social Security strategies because not one size fits all in every case. Understand how your claiming age affects your lifetime income with Social Security. There's a strategy for everybody. Understand the impacts of those strategies and what that long-term risk may be for you at any point. I really encourage people to eliminate debt before retirement. We don't want you going into retirement with student loan debt or mortgage debt. Really have a plan to try to get those paid off before you enter that retirement zone. And again, reduce risks and complexity. Keep growth where it's needed. Don't put everything on the table risky. There's different ways that you can set up your portfolios to really add in risk that's necessary and then minimize that risk where it's not necessary. Again, simplify, consolidate, if you have a variety of retirement plans everywhere, start to think about how you might bring those together. If you have multiple bank accounts everywhere, now's the time to start to simplify and consolidate your life. And again, always revisit estate planning with an eye towards tax efficiency, your asset protection, and family dynamics. Your life is changing. Make sure that your plan reflects those changes. If someone's in your plan that you don't think is so good with money, then start to see how you might be able to work around that planning wise. So there's different ways estate planning can help. You should always be having these conversations at every decade. In your 60s, you're transitioning into this is the decade of moving from building wealth to using it wisely and sustainably. You want to be have confidence going into retirement. You also want to know your decision of deciding when and how. Know what your options are so that when you do turn the switch or turn the dial, you're confident when you move into that phase. We want to make sure that people are also creating a thoughtful income strategy that blends Social Security, your pensions, your portfolio withdrawals, and other income sources. Really having a plan going into retirement is key for making sure that it's successful and that you end up achieving the things you had hoped to. Again, investment strategy shift. The way you're invested is not going to be the same as you were in your 20s, 30s, and 40s. So really start to look about how much risk do you need to have on the table to make your plan work. Healthcare planning, you're going to get inundated with Medicare information as you approach the age of 65. Understand what your options are and help someone guide you through that process because it can be very, very confusing. I helped my dad through this process, and I can't tell you how much mail he received in that year and still continues to raise now that he's well beyond that age. So it can be very confusing, and there's a lot of different options, but finding what is best for you in your situation is really key. And if you've done some long-term care planning, now's the time to implement the strategies that you've chosen. So start to think about, and if you haven't done that, we really need to buckle down and understand what do you want to do, because now is the time to make those decisions for yourself versus having someone else make those decisions for you. And if gifting and legacy planning is part of your strategy, this is the time to start doing that, and especially if it aligns with your values and family. Don't wait until you're gone to be able to share the things you want to with your family. And again, make sure all your estate planning documents are current, including your power of attorney, your healthcare directors, and trust if you have those in place. Make sure those trusts are retitled and your assets are retitled in the name of your assets. I see many people create trusts and do nothing with them. If they're not funded, meaning they're not retitled in the name of your home's not retitled in the name of your trust, it becomes useless. You still will have to go through probate. So really understand how your estate planning documents work and how can you tighten that up for your future self and for your family members. Moving into your 70s and beyond, it's really about legacy and longevity. This is the decade of stewardship, simplicity, and impact. The focus shifts from optimizing your returns to really optimizing your peace of mind and creating alignment. I want our clients focused on some simplicity, clarity, ease of management in your financial life, really simplifying the way you do your bill paying and the number of accounts that you have. This will help others that you trust help you continue to be as independent as you possibly can. Again, ensuring sustainability over an unknown time horizon. Monitor your withdrawal rates, your spending rates. Have someone help you through that. You'll also have required minimum distributions that start in your 70s. So understanding how that impacts your overall income plan is really important. Again, putting support in place to manage health, cognitive, and fraud risks. There's so many risks for our aging parents, our aging seniors, making sure you have the proper supports in place, that they're strong, they're personal to you, and they can help you medically, legally, and financially. And again, refine your legacy and philanthropic plans. This is the time to continue putting those into place, not wait until you're gone. Start to share how you want things to be done, what your wishes are. And again, supporting intergenerational communication. We want money to strengthen family relationships rather than strain them. So don't wait until you're gone to share how you want things done. This is really important on the communication front. So that hits our major decades. The other things I want to hit is common financial pitfalls that women face. So things that we see quite often is that women very often put others first at the expense of their long-term security. When we talk to women, and even general for many parents, putting your oxygen mask first is super important before you start to help other people. It's like airline security. You want to make sure that your long-term security is secure before you start to help pay expenses or support others that are going to start to deplete your security. There's nothing worse than seeing parents drain their retirement savings to help their kids with college planning or with house buying, only to deplete their funds and then have to rely on their kids for future support. We want to make sure that our clients are very secure and independent in the way, and planning for that and making sure you put yourself first is really critical. And it's hard for women. I know we want to help those around us, but helping ourselves first helps those around us. Women are also very fearful about investing. They have fear or they have a lack of confidence. I encourage women to work with somebody that you trust, someone that can explain things in terms that are meaningful to you. Don't be afraid to ask the questions. Use the Center for Women, the webinars we host and provide. We have a lot of women events, focused events for this very reason. We want to provide you with information. We want to help. So reach out to someone that you trust to help get over that fear, and really don't get behind on investing, because that's where we lack, is that we're afraid to take risk. Doesn't mean you have to risk it all, but there's risk and reward. So you need to be smart about that and not set yourself back. Another key thing is that not revisiting your financial plan after life changes. You should be looking at your financial plan every time something in your life changes, and at a minimum on a yearly basis, because there's much that's changing in your life. I've changed my plan 3 times this year because we've had shift and changes in our life that's impactful to our plan. It doesn't mean that everything has to be redone, but you want to run the numbers again and understand what's the next best thing I can do with my next dollar. And finally, waiting too long to ask for help. When you get to the table at age 65, it's really hard to help someone understand how they can make strong strategic moves to help improve their chances at meeting their goals. If you start, or the earlier you start, the more opportunity you have to make small shifts and changes. The longer you wait, the bigger shifts and changes you need to make. So I want to highlight some of those, especially for women. How can a financial advisor help? I think initially creating that financial plan that evolves around you is really key. Really, a roadmap can't be created until you have a plan, a basis, a foundation for that plan to understand what it's built on. So find someone you trust, or do this on your own if you want to be a do-it-yourselfer, but really hone in on what's your plan, what's your vision, and then create a roadmap that's going to help you get there. A financial advisor also helps you with accountability and giving you clarity, answering questions you might be afraid to ask or really don't know. There's so much information out there on social media these days. The TikToks that we get from clients about stuff that's half right, not necessarily right, may not fit your situation, is runs the gamut. So really have a partner that's aligned with you, provides you clarity on your situation, and also holds you accountable for things that you want to do to meet those future goals. Really, advisors provide you objective guidance during transitions. My job for my clients is to help provide information to them so they can make informed decisions. I do the research. I know their situation. I'm sharing the pros and cons of every situation. Ultimately, the decision is always yours. But understanding and having someone give you objective guidance about your situation can be very instrumental in helping you meet those future goals. Again, having someone coordinate investments, taxes, insurance, estate planning, knowing what questions you should be asking your CPA when that review time comes, or do you have enough insurance coverage? And if there's gaps, can you be aware of them so you at least know the risk points in your foundation? And then estate planning, making sure things are retitled. I'm doing that for my clients on a regular basis. If they put the effort and money and time into putting estate plan and documents, my job is to make sure that it's actually working in the way that they want it to. And that's what a professional can help you with. Finally, your next steps, what I want you to think about today. Where are you in your financial plan and roadmap today? Do you have one? Have you talked with your advisor in the last year, in the last couple of years? If not, I encourage you to schedule that financial check-in and roadmap session with your advisor. And if you don't have one, now's the time to start to think about who might be that fit for you. And then I also want you to think about today, what's one action you can take this year that's going to help improve your financial plan and roadmap going forward? And I have some tips and advice for that in my last slide here. One smart move this decade. So if you're in your 20s, save, save, save. If you haven't started contributing to a retirement plan, do it now and at least start at the match if you can. If you're in your 30s and you've been contributing to retirement, increase those retirement contributions even by 1% right now. Because unless you're at that maximum contribution under 50 of 24,500, you have room to save and room to take advantage of that. Do that now. If you're in your 40s, I recommend you do a full financial check-in. Understand where you are, and now start to think about where do you want to be and what small steps can you take today that will help you get there. In your 50s, this is the time to really buckle down and maximize those retirement savings because retirement is in sight. You can see that right in front of you. So really maximizing any savings you can and be strategic about which bucket you put it in is really important in your 50s. And in your 60s, start to think about a clear retirement income strategy and even what your purpose is going to be in your 60s. Many people retire and they think they're going to sit on a beach forever. Like this, that's my retirement plan. I'm going to sit on the beach or I'm going to play golf every single day. Talk to me 2 years after you retire because I guarantee you, you're not going to want to be sitting on the beach or playing golf anymore. You're going to want to have community involvement. You're going to want to have a purpose. You're going to want to have a reason to get out of bed every morning. So start to think about what those options could be. Think about what you might enjoy doing again, activities, hobbies, and then also have a retirement income strategy that helps support that, knowing how you're going to do without a regular paycheck. And then finally, in your 70s, simplify. Start to consolidate your accounts. Start to make it easy for people that you trust around you to support your finances as you start to age. We want to make sure that you can be as independent as possible. And to do that, simplifying everything really makes it much easier. With that, I am going to open up to questions. Let me see if I can see my screen again. Any questions out there? Hold on, I need to find my panel. I did get one question that was asking me about 529 plans and when should I start? I love 529 plans. I think those are really helpful for people. If you have kids that you think might go to college, there's a lot more flexibility in those plans. I think the sooner you can start, as soon as your child is born and has a social security number, get that account started. You don't need to start with a big amount. For my daughter, when she was young, we started and just did a very small amount each month that we could save for her. But also when we got gifts and things for her at a very young age, we put those gifts in the 529. You can also have grandparents open 529s in the name of the child. That helps take it out of your financial aid application, which is also another great thing. But take a look at different ways. I think that's a great vehicle to consider if it fits your family's needs. And I'm happy to talk more about that to anyone that has interest in that. If there's any other questions. Another one came up too about how do I choose between Roth and pre-tax in my 401k? It's a great question. I get that question all the time when I'm on site meeting with employees of a company. That's really dependent on your tax situation. The way I have people think about it, I said, always ask your tax professional what they think about you contributing to a Roth in your 401k and if that makes sense. I hate to see people jump into a new tax bracket because they switch to Roth. So talking with your CPA about your tax brackets and what makes most sense for you and your tax situation is really important. I also want people to understand that Roth in a 401k is very different from a Roth outside of a 401k. There are income restrictions that are tied to Roths that are Roth IRAs versus a Roth 401k. There is no income restrictions with a Roth 401k. Anyone can contribute to a Roth 401k. Outside of the plan, when you're talking about a Roth IRA, there are income restrictions. So really understand what those income restrictions are, because if you don't qualify for them, you may be penalized. So that's one important thing to think about. And if you have a specific question on that, I'm happy to answer that question. Again, it is 12:30, so I don't see any other questions in the chat. If you do have questions and you'd like to ask them or have a personal conversation with me, please reach out to me. My name is on the screen and my email address is there for you, tracy@12points.com. Again, you will get a copy of this presentation as soon as the recording is ready, along with the slide deck. But I'm also happy to answer questions that you have along the way. And those that may not have wanted to ask the question today, please reach out. I'm happy to help with those at any point in time. Oh, and I do have a couple more questions here. Would you be able to re-show the 30 sides separately? Are there any suggestions for specific to Americans living abroad? I think, let me go back to the 30 slide. Give me 1 second. See if I can go back to the 30s. Here's the 30 slide there, and anything specific, there are some different challenges with Americans living abroad. It's really tax related, but I mean, you can still do things depending on where you live. So I would prefer to have a conversation with you and help answer that question for you. So please reach out. I'm happy to talk with you and about your specific situation because it's really dependent on where you are and what your current situation is employment wise. Can you give some recommendations on long-term care plans? I'm just seeing. Okay. I'm happy to talk more about long-term care plans. There's a variety of options these days. You can have a traditional plan, you can have a hybrid plan. There's a variety of ways to do that. I'm happy to share more about that. And I know we've had a few long-term care webinars in the past, especially in our Women's Center for Women with some healthcare, long-term care specialists that we work with. So if you would like to reach out to me separately, I will put your name down here now and reach out to you if you don't reach out to me first. But we'll share some different options because again, it's very specific to who you are and your situation and what you're looking for and exactly the needs that you're looking to cover. I believe that is all the questions I have. Again, if I can help with anything at all, please reach out. My email is at the end of the slide, which I'll go back to here. Tracy@12points.com. Thank you again for joining us, and I hope that you'll join us for a future webinar again. Have a great day.